Nir, I want to ask you about um, how can we be mindful of what media is putting into our brains, the beliefs
Mm,
that media are putting in us. Because there's obviously our own internal world, but also we live in a world where we are being fed constantly that 11 million bits, all that
mm.
information, and all these companies is trying to alter our beliefs. Like, what do we do with that?
I would offer a few pieces of advice. Number one, we have to awaken the moderate middle. The majority of people out there, I believe, I want to believe, I don't know this as a fact, but I want to believe, the majority of us are rational, normal, moderate people. The problem
Mm,
is that on social media, it is dominated by the extremes. That's, the people who scream on Twitter and social media and TikTok. These are the fanatics. They're at the extremes. They're people who typically have psychological issues and they're looking for validation by becoming addicted to this online environment. It is not the real world, but for them, it becomes everything. And we
that's
look
their
at it and
world.
we think it's
Yeah,
their world, but the rest of us look at it occasionally, right? Like the 99% of people who never post anything, who just consume content,
right,
we look at
right,
this and we think this is the real world. It's not. It's a
right,
world that is
right.
manufactured many times by wackos, people who really should not be having a megaphone, to be honest. I'm not going to take away from them. Of course, I'm a free speech advocate, but we as consumers of that information, you cannot believe that what you see on X or TikTok or wherever is a representative sample of reality, because it's really only the extremes who even post in the first place. It's literally 1%. This is point number one. We have to demand nuance. Those of us in the middle, the moderate middle, we have to be extremist for nuance. Meaning, what does that mean? When you consume information, do not consume information from sources who give you one side of the story.
Mm,
We have to demand both sides. If somebody says, uh, I'm going to only listen to my side, they are part of the problem. So in your news sources, demand that there are both sides. Okay, so that's one thing. Second thing is to look for things that are in your control. Okay, look for things that you can actually do something about, because if you're not, it's just rage bait. It feels really
hmm.
good to say, oh, those people are evil and I'm good. And that's what we do all day long. It doesn't matter what issue. We love the feeling that we're righteous and everybody else is against us. Love that feeling. It's tribalism. Okay. So look for the things you can actually do something about, not some war thousands of miles away that's got nothing to do with you,
Right.
not some social issue that you don't even bother to do anything about. What about the neighbor next door? The old person who needs someone to check up on them every once in a while to make sure they're okay. What about volunteering at your school? What about your local community? Find things that you can actually do something about. Okay, in the
Mm.
United States, national politics, go vote. It's good, but other than that, like, people get so wound up on things that have nothing to do with them. But yes, there's evil in the world. Yes, it's terrible, but you got a life to live. Okay, you got to
Hmm.
figure out your zone of influence, and you can have a much bigger impact helping your neighbor than going across the country and protesting on something that's not going to change anybody's mind, right? The politicians don't care what your sign says, frankly. Okay, find the things that you can actually do something about. And then third, if you really, really, really care deeply about an issue, and I do believe in civic engagement, I think that's great. If you really care about an issue, you're not allowed to publicly talk about it and advocate for it unless, and this is, I mean, of course, I'm not talking legally. I'm just giving you an answer to your question of what my guidelines are. If you can't argue both sides convincingly,
Mm.
meaning if you can't convince someone on your side of your opponent point of view, no matter what the issue is,
Mm.
shut the hell up. You are not qualified unless you can argue your opponent's position. The world does not need your opinion. Now, if you can do that convincingly, if you can say, yeah, you know what, I can definitely convince someone on my side of my opponent's perspective, and I still believe what I believe, all right, good for you. Now you've done your homework. It's pretty much nobody who can do that, but I think that's a pretty good test. So demand nuance in your news sources, act in your zone of influence where you can actually do something, and don't argue about an issue unless you can argue both sides.
I like that. I mean, it's about bringing the ends of the spectrum to the middle so you understand both sides, right? And you have the news sources that you know what's actually going on before you establish some sort of a strong belief into anything. So be
Yeah.
very careful about that.
And most issues, they tend to boil down to a very simple question which is becomes something that, again, it's a belief, oftentimes faith. But you only get to that nugget of, wait, what are we really, 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 really arguing here? You only get to that nugget when you can argue your opponent's side.